Parashat Tetzei, special parasha, Rabotai, my bar mitzvah parasha. So this parasha is always being read on during the month of Elul, and like anything, like any other parasha, but especially those who are being read during the month of Elul, it hints us for major spiritual enlightenment and in terms of pnimiyut, chidush of pnimiyut, and so on and so forth. Hello, Eitan, you got wet? So it might come to you as a surprise. You know, we're talking about spirituality and spiritual processes, but it might come to you as a surprise if you look at it. I think that this parasha talks about different types of women more than any other parasha. Not that there's anything wrong with women in terms of being spiritual, or contrary. However, what I'm going to talk to you about might not seem spiritual at all, because we're talking about harlots. And we're talking about harlots. Harlots, anybody knows what a harlot is? Yeah. Prostitute. So we're talking about harlots, and the Torah gives us a commandment that it has to do with it. And the commandment is, Lo tavi etnan zona umechir kelev bet Hashem elokecha lechol neder ki to'ovat Hashem elokecha gam shneim. You can bring etnan zona. Etnan zona means the wages. I'm sorry, the wages. Wages will be the 8 inches, thing you're working. The wages of a harlot, in other words, whatever she got paid for her services, you cannot bring that as a, and we'll see exactly what it is. Mechir kelev, according to most mefarshim, mechir kelev means a substitution that I got for, or an exchange that I made with somebody towards a dog. And as a result of that, I cannot bring that as a sacrifice or for any matter into Beit HaMikdash and exactly see what it is. However, some mefarshim and some researchers would like to point out that in the ancient world, the word kelev also was referred to was said in a reference to a male prostitute. However, the mefarshim refer to it as the exchange of a price of a dog. Let's say, for example, you gave me a dog, and in exchange for that, I gave you a goat, argument's sake, right? So those cannot come, we cannot bring them as an offering to Beit HaMikdash, or for that matter, for what we know so far, any kind of donation to Beit HaMikdash. Eitan, why don't you sit closer, honey? Come here, I put the heat on so we can dry out. Anyway, so it says, and so therefore you cannot bring the etnan zona mechir kelev. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Torah tells us, to'avat Hashem elokecha. It's an abomination. It's an abomination to bring something like that as a gift or as a sacrifice to Beit HaMikdash. And the principle of this commandment is really, in principle, to bring any kind of korban, whether it's tzon, bakar, whether it's sheep, or any of those kosher animal, in 2 ways. The first one will be, we said, an exchange that was given to the harlot to compensation for her services, and the other one is a calf or goat or whatever that was giving in exchange to a dog. And Chachamim really debated if that is a complete isur, and therefore you are not allowed to use what we call the etnan. Etnan word, let's use this word that introduces us to this word etnan, mishum netina. Etnan means the wages wages in which the prostitute got compensated for her services. Let's use the word etnan from now on. So, can I use that etnan for any kind of services of kodesh, of holiness, right? And that is the opinion of Tana Kama in the Mishnah. Or maybe it is a specific prohibition that that we're dealing here, and whatever is forbidden is really to bring those to the temple, to Beit HaMikdash, as a korban specifically, and that is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. That's what Rabbi Eliezer held. According to Rabbi Eliezer, I'm allowed to use those things to those, either the money, the etnan that I got from the harlot, or the exchange that I got for a dog, I'm allowed to use it for other holy services. That's why, for example, I'm allowed to prepare let's say from a cow that was given to a harlot, if just so happens that is a red heifer that fulfills all the categories. And don't forget that was a very expensive ordeal. Para aduma shelo ala alea ol, that fills all the criteria for para aduma. That's something that was worth, a lot of money. So this harlot got that cow as an exchange. So according to that, I'm allowed to take this cow and use the ashes of this cow to purification, to the purification processes for people who were contaminated, spiritually, and therefore it's, it will be okay. According to him, it will be okay. So the only difference is what we call it nanu mechir, therefore over psula. That's something that I can bring. Why? Because I can bring an animal who is not kosher, who is not eligible. I can bring it as a korban. Something I can bring it to Beit HaMikdash. Is not a problem. So Rabbi Eliezer will be machshir. And why is that? Because it says sheneemar lo tavi etnan zonah bechir kele bet Hashem elokecha ve'en zo ba'al habayit. That cow is not coming to Beit HaMikdash. It's coming to other thing. So therefore, that's in a way not a problem that it's saying. And by the way, you could look at the Mishnah in Masechet, in the Mishnah in Para, Perek Bet Mishnah Gimel. It talks exactly about that. So that thing is not coming to Beit HaMikdash. I'm doing other usages with that, with whatever it is that I'm getting. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, that will be okay. It's not a problem whatsoever. So in that machloket, it's not just a disagreement about two different, halachic conclusion, yes or no. But it's also a matter of an idea of a principle which is very deep and it's very important. We need to concentrate on that. So one concept really deals that the concept of etnan, compensation that the harlot had received for her services, is something that is completely pasul, and there is no way for us to do anything holy in that, and that's nothing to do. Why? Because we are talking about money that is really disgraceful, and something that the tum'ah in a way attaches itself to it. And this is, by the way, the perush of the Rekanati on the essence of this issue. And he says, רמז לנו הכתוב שישמרו המידה שנקראת בית השם הרומזת לשכינה בטהרה ובקדושה. That there is such thing as a quality inside of us, or whatever it is, in the way we conduct ourselves, that's called Beit HaMikdash, and that we need to guard. So therefore, according to the Rekanati, it's not necessarily Beit HaMikdash, but something above and beyond that. It's something that we have to relate to. And he says, ולהשפיע עליה צינורות החסד והרחמים. And we need to direct to it the channels of mercy and kindness and so on and so forth. ולא תינוק מאתנן הזונה ובמחיר כלב. And whatever will come as the result of the compensation of the harlot and the exchange of the dog, we don't want to give them any kind of a zchut to that, right? Why? בסוד הנחה שהטיל זוהמה בחווה העליונה. Because of an association with what exactly happened to what we call the original sin, as they say, when the snake impurified the Chava, the matriarch of all humankind. And by the way, the stories of Adam and Chava, I don't consider myself to be a genius or a great person, and so on and so forth, but I can tell you that. Maybe because of that, I can tell you straight out. I don't have a problem with Adam and Eve being true stories, because if I'm going to tell you that these are parables, therefore I will have to remove everything else from the Torah as I think is a parable. And therefore it is completely words of apikorsia. So I'm not going there. Adam and Chava, really man and woman, exactly as the Torah said that. If I want to hear parables and stories, I'm not going to open the Bible. I'm going to go to Walt Disney. They can do a better production, let me tell you that. Anyway, whew, that was intense. Anyway, and that's what we're referring to, is what it was said in Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah B, verse 7. It says, "V'tavo v'tetamu et artzi v'nachalati," and you would come in and you would desecrate my land, my estate. V'nachalati samtem letova, and then you made it into an abomination. My country and everything else you turned into an abomination. It's very hard for me to really hear that, because that's exactly what we've been doing, and I'm not liking it. Now, there are some prohibitions that we know that we have to remove ourselves completely from them in order to be very careful, in order to maintain that concept that we say Bet Hashem, to consider to be the house of God. In other words, a person could really dwell inside or bestow upon himself internally the concept of the Shekhinah and purity, divine providence and purity. However, only if he would be very careful. In other words, he needs to be very, very careful all the time that about what you let inside of into yourself and what you expose yourself to. And I've been telling you this time and time again, reality is what you expose yourself to. Therefore, you gotta remove yourself from any form of negativity, because once you're going to start with negativity, you're not going to be able to stop. Once you're going to hear, all the gossiping that they have, well, this, person did like that, and she bought this shoes, it's all gossip. You're not going to be able to stop Lashon Hara, so you need to cut it up completely. Anybody like sports here? Sport teams? God, man, you guys are amazing. You like sport team? What do you like? בית"ר ירושלים?
הפועל תל אביב.
עזוב, הפועל תל אביב, אני לא מתייחס. בית"רים, right? So let me ask you a question. Is that your father's team, הפועל תל אביב? הגואל תל אביב. לא, מה אכפת לך מה יהיה איתם? לא אכפת לך, וזהו. Now, if you were in Israel and you would love every מוצאי שבת, נו, הכניס זה, שיהיה פאנקים בו, I don't know, he put the goal, put the ball in the basket, מה, הכניס גול, לא הכניס, החמיץ פנדל. Why do I care about it? He scored a goal, he didn't score a goal. But it's my father's team, do I get bonuses if they lose or if they win? My אכפת לי, what do I care? Now, all of a sudden, you're not going to listen to it. You're going to say, really, I used to be such a big fan of this team. Islanders, whatever teams are out there. I don't know what they're out there, right? I don't care. The same thing here. If you don't hear gossip, if you don't hear, negativity, you're going to, have much less of that within your existence. The same thing here. You need to know, in order to be pure, you need to hear purity. Don't think you're going to be able to be a pure person if you don't hear Divrei Torah. למה? כי תורה מטהרת נפשו של אדם. The Torah is going to purify you. You're not going to watch, whatever channel, and CNN or whatever channels you're watching, and then be pure. Because it's all about murder and cheating and lying and killing and this and that, and really things that you really have nothing to do, about. You can't do anything about it. It already happened, and there's nothing. The only thing that those things have to do for you is just to get you from your stable state of positive and doing and action to put you in a state of disarray and panic. So you can't do it. Stop listening to the news. I told you like 50,000 times.
רחוק מהעין ורחוק מהלב.
בדיוק ככה, מותק. בדיוק ככה. Far from the eye, far from the heart. Exactly it. So those things, those areas and those fields, you need to understand that you have to live outside of your fence, outside of the walls of your existence. Right? He married this one, she divorced the other one, she went away with this. What do I need this for? Then when we start copying everything like a bunch of monkeys. And the to'ava, the abomination, by doing so would not receive a stamp of approval and therefore could not be included in what we call Asiyat HaKodesh. And that's what we do. We kind of give the seal of approval to anything that is bad out there, right? And that is in a way almost like a mystical explanation to everything that happened around us, to the fact that we say that money or things like that have other qualities besides the value in which the Federal Reserve, determines to have, and that we cannot wash and clean and launder the garbage for money by doing something for it. And then I'll tell you the famous story of the Baba Sali. He had two piles of money where people used to come to him and they used to give him money to support his Mosdot Torah and so on and so forth. He used to take one, somebody gives him the money, he puts it here. Somebody else gives him the money, he puts it there. So one time his shamash asked him, he said, why do you put one here, one put there? What is this? What's the sechel behind it? He says, over here is money that came betahara, bekdusha, betahara, without chilul Shabbat, and so on and so forth. That money goes for Torah. That money goes to tzedakah. That money goes to good things. This money is chilul Shabbat. That money came be'avera, with a sin, with oppression, with the wrongdoing. That money I don't deal, I gotta throw it away. Why? Shene'emar lo tavi etnan zonah mechir kelev. I cannot take money that was done something wrong with it, halachically and morally wrong with it, and then make it kosher by giving money. So if you are a mechalel Shabbat, and you build a gigantic, shul, that's wrong. You tell them, listen, we don't need your money, we need your neshama. אנחנו צריכים את הנשמה שלך. Stop being mechalel Shabbat. My son's Rosh Yeshiva told, my son said, I was there, I heard it, it says, he tells people, he said, Tishma, you're not doing me a favor. There's a big yeshiva in Israel. You're not doing me a favor by giving money for the yeshiva. You should know that I'm doing you a favor. And I don't take money from everyone. You can wash the filth or the abomination from your money by giving it to mitzvah. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't want it. And we need to remember this all the time. The other way that we could explain that really assumes that there is something very, very specific here. The prohibition is really to uproot and to really implant in us, uproot a certain type of behavior and implant with us the proper type of behavior in us. To a person who made an averah, who made a sin, who sinned, there's always a natural, if you learn psychology, you know that, there's always a natural inclination to really kosher his wrongdoing. The same thing is if a person has a secret, the bigger the secret, the more he would actually find or look for ways to tell you that. Okay? So if you have nothing to hide, you don't have to worry about keeping a secret, because you can't keep a secret. So if a person does a sin, he wants to find ways why he said okay. In other words, we always find excuses why it was okay. It's not my fault, it's his fault, she did this to me like this, he did it to me like this, and so on and so forth. You always, because you feel guilty. We feel guilty. In psychology, guilt is not a good thing. I'm going to tell you, a little guilt can take you a long way. And I'll show you why. Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll show you why. So a person that sinned, and to go with a harlot, to use a human being for your own uncontrolled desires, that's a wrong thing to do. And the Torah does not allow that to happen. The Torah does whatever it can in its power to prevent the concept that we are so in love with today, which is prostitution. I mean, people that were I don't know, governors, and attorney generals and so on and so forth, did not stop them from doing such a horrible thing. What's the difference between prostitution and slavery? I think it's almost the same thing. Almost the same thing. So that's wrong. The Torah tells us, no, you going to a prostitute, that's not going to happen. And we're going to stop this whole thing. So therefore we say, we can exchange that. You can exchange, you can receive that, it's wrongdoing. And a person like this, right, if a person does an avera, and this is an example, a person does an avera, and we kosher his money, right? Let's say, for example, a person is a millionaire, however, he's a mechalel Shabbat, right? And he comes to you and he says, listen, I'm going to give you $2 million, build a shul for me, right? But he's mechalel Shabbat, he drives on Shabbat, he doesn't keep kosher. And what are you going to say? Well, yeah, of course. You are koshering his wrongdoing. In a way, what you are doing, you're giving the seal of approval for his wrongdoing. If you would tell him, listen, you can give me $4 million, I'm not taking your money. You want me to take your money? It's not a problem. Keep Shabbat. Otherwise, don't even talk to me. Change your ways. Change your ways. There's no such thing as, and that's why I do believe that besides being illegal, I think laundering money is a horrible thing. Because a person that launders money, saying to the other person, I know that you got the money the wrong way, and I'm going to help you do the avera. That's terrible. And we shouldn't do it. We should not be a part of such society. So, and this is exactly what this prohibition came us to prevent, from koshering people's wrongdoing. So the Ramban writes the following. He says, I'm quoting, Hazonot yasu ba'etnan shelahem mitzvot. The harlots are going to take the compensation, the money that they got, and they're going to do mitzvot with them. And by doing the mitzvot, choshvot lechaper al chatatan, they'll do the mitzvah and they think that they would wash away their sins. That would atone for the sins, the mitzvot that they're doing. And so is people raise dogs, and the Ramban writes, people raise dogs that actually harm people, they bite people and so on and so forth. Or they exchange money for that, for the mikdash. Why? In order to remove from themselves. So they take their wrongdoing money, so they inside will feel that it's okay, and because they can't really live with the fact that they know that they're doing something wrong. Now, again, Beit HaMikdash, and for that matter, any religious institution, is not a washing machine or a money laundering machine. It is not. It is not. It's a horrible thing to do. And as the Nevi'im, as the prophets has said in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 1, verse 11. 12, verse 12. Verse 12. You said 12? You said 12? All right. Give yourself a high five. All right, very good. All right. So, because it says over there, what it says in Isaiah, a very, very harsh words. Ki tavo lirot panai, when you're going to come and seek my face, mi bikesh zot miyadchem remos chatzerai. Who asked you to come with your feet to stumble and step upon my courtyard? Who asked you? I don't want you. God tells us, I don't want you. Because you're wrongdoing. I don't want you there. You think you're doing me a favor by coming to visit me in the temple? I don't want you there. And as a matter of fact, we got it sort of wrong that at the end he says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, guess what? I'm taking it away from you. Don't think you can buy anything. Don't think you can petition the Lord with prayer, nor with money either. You can't do that. As much as Chazal told us also, there's a pasuk that says, Botzea berach nietz Hashem. And they learned that a person who steals a whole thing of dough, right? He stole Isa, a whole dough, and then after he stole the dough, not money, dough for like bread, then he rolls his eyes and he says, לשם ייחוד, אני מפריש חלה, עכשיו I'm doing mitzvah, נטילת ידיים, he goes to the mikvah, right? And that's what I'm doing. You're stealing something and then you want to tell me you care about my mitzvot so much that you're going to mafrish challah. I don't need this. So by taking the challah out of the dough does not kosher your act of stealing. That the whole thing is asur, is forbidden for you. Taking the challah, doing the mitzvah that doesn't do any good, does not make the bread or whatever it is that you bake from the dough kosher now. So the problem is not only in desecration of what is holy. but also in this unbelievable and ungraspable mixture of Kodesh and Chol, of holy and abomination mixed in together. It is just impossible. Impossible. And I'm going to tell you, the Torah is not apologetic about it. The Torah is not trying to be politically correct. The Torah does not care if that kind of hurts your feelings of the general public. The Torah tells you that. And you should know that you should say the truth. If that is bad, that is bad. If you don't like it, take cold water and drink it. But that's about it. And at the end, I'll tell you why it's important. And also, which is really, it's even more so, and the way it's so easy to us, which is really untangible, and I can't even stand that, of really pushing away the chet, like dismissing the sin that we did, and even lack of any effort on our behalf to use any morals of values, of virtues. Instead of that, we're trying to use like makeup to beautify the ugly reality in which we created through our avarot. The problem is not only in the disgrace of bringing those korbanot, those sacrifice to Beit HaMikdash, but also in the swiftness that we move from the action that was wrong to the fix-up that we want to do, almost like taking the pill the day after pill, if you know what I mean. You're doing something that is wrong. You're doing something that is bad. Don't worry about it. I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going to take it the day after pill. I'm not going to get pregnant and so on and so forth. I'm going to tell you something. I mean, yeah, listen, with all due respect to all those great scientists and so on and so on, with tremendous mind that want to make a birth control pill or the day after pill, there is a good side to it. But in a way, that causes us not to be willing to take responsibility for our actions, and we don't fix it. I mean, if you would face with the reality that you have to take responsibility, now you did something wrong, now you're going to have a child with this moron, right, that you went the night before, or you were drunk in a bar, so guess what? You would think twice. But since we made all those things, we allow all these bad actions to happen. And if you sit now and without being brainwashed and so on and so forth, start looking where we are today as a society, and look at certain milestones in terms of development and so on and so forth, how we get to where we got. And you see, within 50 years, we destroyed everything that we believed in. Why? Because the main thing about it, that we created mechanisms that prevent us, or allow us not to assume responsibility, not to carry the consequences of our actions. Take a pill, it's going to be good. In a way, Corona did us a lot of chesed, They're not going to be, I guess, so many illegitimate kids. Nobody wants to get Corona. Right? Just think about those things. So, Rabbi Eliezer, so what we are talking about, and it's really uncontrollable actions that we do. I'll take a pill, it's going to be okay. If they would make a pill for people to cure for hangovers, everybody will be drunk all the time. Because I don't have to worry about the next day tomorrow when I have to go to work and I have like a splitting headache, like somebody took a Frisker axe and just put it into my head. So I have to go to work so I can't get drunk. But if there will be a pill, everybody will be drunk. I mean, think about those things. So Rabbi Eliezer explained that Isur in a different way. And he really held that the prohibition is referred to only for bringing the etnan, which is the compensation of the harlot, as a korban itself, and not necessarily for bringing that as a donation and in a way tying it for other things in the Kodesh. And it says in Masechet Avodah Zarah, it's a very disturbing story. It says about Rabbi Eliezer that he was sentenced to death. Rabbi Eliezer was sentenced to death, and when he was saved from this death, he really did a certain cheshbon nefesh. He really thought, like, what did I do to get to this situation? And really trying to understand what did he do wrong, that he was so-called sentenced to death. He remembered that one time he met this heretic, this min echad, and that min asked him. He says, could I use, or is it possible to use the etnan zonah, right, the wages of a harlot, in order to make, are you with me? To use it, to take the money, not to bring a korban, but to use it to build a toilet for the high priest. A bathroom, a toilet. And because a Kohen Gadol, right, his logic was, the Kohen Gadol, and we learned it in Masechet Yomam, is mufresh from his house to a place it's called Lishkat Pal Hederin, 1 week before Yom Kippur, and over there he prepares for this great, wonderful day, and for that they prepare for him everything that he needs. Everything that he needs, he has over there in this Lishkat Pal Hederin. And the question is, are you allowed to use the etnan for something that is so disgraceful anyway as building a bathroom? You know, you call it a crapper, right? And because that's, after all, his needs. So Rabbi Eliezer really, he really enjoyed that. I like that. The thing of the Apikoros. And he says, let's learn from Sefer Micha. And in Sefer Micha it says, Ki mi'etnan zonan kabetzah v'al zonan yeshuvu. From the place of filth they came, and to the place of filth they would go, in order to be matir de maaseh, in order to allow what they did, they're going to go to, as they say, they're going to go all the way for that. Of course, the original intent of the pasuk was really referring to the Churban, or the destruction of Shomron, Samaria, right? Also aka as the West Bank. If anybody wants to know where the Jews lived mainly on the mountains of Yehuda v'Shomron. Rabotai, Yehuda v'Shomron are more Jewish than Tel Aviv, or than other places. So there were no Palestinians there, not even Plishtim. Anyway, right? Amen, right?
Amen.
צריך להגיד את האמת, we have to say the truth. I have to be apologized. כולם מתנצלים. סליחה שאני גר בארץ. I'm sorry for living in Israel. But I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. Right? So, and because of that, because he enjoyed that Dvar Torah, Rabbi Eliezer was sentenced to death. And if you want to look further into that, look at Masechet Avodah Zarah in Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. So that, in a way, that parallel, kind of, in a very almost sarcastic way, examines the weakness of the concept of Rabbi Eliezer, and really takes the action of the holy actions, right, which is the holiest actions, and the holiest day, right, by the holiest man, that in front of him there is a garbage of garbage, if you know what I mean. And that is etnan and bet hakiseh. Etnan, the compensation, and a bathroom. So in a way, that would make sense. That would make sense. That division makes sense. We have a holy person, and a holy day, and a holy action, and therefore we should take the etnan zonah, and we should take the bet hakiseh and separate them, right? We should separate, we should not mix them together. Also, we could claim here that there is also a different way to look at it, and the different way is like that. There is no separation whatsoever between the human aspect of the Kohen Gadol and to the avodah in which he does. Looking and separating his physical needs to spiritual obligation is wrong. We cannot cleanse ourselves, even the most behemoth things like going to the bathroom, with even something so, as an abomination as a Tanan Zona. Why? Because you can't. And the same thing, as much as you cannot learn Torah from an apikoros, from a mean, from somebody like that, right? That is not considered to be Torah. Rav Kook has a wonderful, wonderful thing on that. He writes like this: Kol hagdulot sheba'olam, all the great things in the world, eina maziza, kol dehu, does not remove anything, even a smidgen, mitviot aktanot, from the little things that we have to do. Kmo she'en shum gdola sheba'olam, as much as there's no great action or greatness in the world, would exempt you, poteret umafkia, would exempt you any kind of functioning that you have to do with your body, shum tafkid gufani. In other words, with all due respect, even Queen Elizabeth, after she's done eating, goes to wherever she goes, if you know what I mean, just like anybody else. Everybody, it doesn't make the greatest person on earth has to use a bathroom. So that division is wrong. And it says, Gam hashfilim shebashfilim, whether the greatest person or the lowest person, it's all the same thing. And it says, Adam gadol eino poter ve'eino miftar me'isuk haktanot. Even a great person has to deal with those things. Kmo shegufo shel adam gadol poel, as much as the body of a great person is working, the metabolism and so on and so forth, on the same biology, every other person does it like this. And he also, zakuk l'shafir shebashvim, he also, needs to go to the bathroom. Now, we know the story about Pharaoh. Pharaoh wanted to prove to everybody that he's not a human, that he's a god. And we all know the story, what he used to do first thing in the morning. He used to hold himself so much, and in the morning he used to go when nobody was up, and he will go like chest high into the Nile, and then he used to, because he was in denial, so and then he used to do his needs in the river so nobody would see him actually defecating, because he's after all a god. Only humans go to the bathroom. That's exactly his thought. It says, "Ela shegadlut madricha et ha'adam liyot beyoto mekabel oto beta'arato." The greatness of a person is that he takes those actions and is able to bring his purity into those actions as well. Ech litnaheg bechol ha'yanim shebaktanot. Even his purity, his greatness, he's going to deal with things like that. And we know that from Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech was a very humble man. When he used to go to the bathroom, he used to go far away from everybody. Nobody would able to see him. He brought the Kedusha in it. And over there, if a person takes those actions, and all the actions that we are in a way like animals, whether it's food, animals eat, we eat. Do you ever see a cow eating lettuce? Yes. Did you ever see a human eating lettuce? Yeah, same thing. You see a man eating a steak? You ever see a lion eating a steak? The mechanism is the same. It goes from here, it goes out of there. Now, it doesn't make a difference if you're a dinosaur or you are, fan of Apollo Tel Aviv. It's all the same thing. Nichnas b'makom echad, yotze b'makom sheni. And the same thing to having the sexual interactions. Animals do it, we do it. But how do you do it? You do it like an animal? Or you use your gift, being a human, to elevate it, to bring it into a great act. That's what our Rav Kook is saying to us, which is beautiful. So one of the things that takes the person and really destroys them, and of course we all know it's a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara puts you in an imbalanced state. And what is that? How does it do it? You have crazy thoughts. Not crazy thoughts, you know what I'm saying, that God spoke to you. You know, all these things tell you, don't worry, nobody's looking, just do it, right? That bugs you all the time. No, just press this thing, mommy's sleeping, no, daddy's sleeping, just spend W. Everybody's sleeping, right? It bugs you all the time, and you should say, no, I'm not doing this. And it goes, why? And how do we deal with this? Now we're talking about a non-zona, right? Zona, Zayin, Vav, Nun, Hey. And we have something similar, because we were warned also ourselves not to become, not necessarily, of course there's a Yisur, not to Yeh Kadesh V'Kadesha B'nei Israel, but we should not follow this act of becoming ourselves to act like a harlot. Because it says, V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem asher atem zonim acharei. Your actions are actions like a harlot, right? In other words, don't bring your urges, don't bring your thoughts in which you are paying wages to, right? What we call it, Tanazonah Mechir Kelev, to my temple. What is going to be, don't bring him to your shul, don't bring this demoralized behavior into the shuls, don't bring him to yeshivas, and don't bring it to the temple that you should have built yourself inside of you. Don't bring those things and say, it's okay that I watch porn, but I give a lot of money to shul. That's not okay. Don't do that. That's right? How do we stand in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? If we say that we are the temple, in that temple we are the Kohen Gadol, how are we going to stand in front of him in Rosh Hashanah, in Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment? How are we going to stand in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Yom Kippurim? What are we going to bring? How are we going to do that? How do we stand in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day? According to that, you can't do anything. You have to do something that is different. So in our parasha, this parasha has the most mitzvot aseh in the whole entire Torah. And this parasha, there is a mitzvah, it says, V'asita ma'akeh legagcha, gimel chaf. Gagcha in Gematria is 26. 26 as much as minyan of Shem Hashem, Yud Ke Vav Ke, 26. The Torah teaches each and every one of us. You have to put a fence around. Remember, we spoke in the mornings this week about the Rabbanan, Midoraita, and so on and so forth. Make a ma'akeh, make a fence, make a banister or something around so people would not fall. That your Rishut HaYachid, your temple, is not going to be Makom Parutz, a place that is we call no man's land. Make it into Rishut HaYachid, in a place that the Yachid is Murshe Lavo. As much as the Yachid is the only one, the only human is allowed to come into Kodesh HaKodeshim, right? Reshut HaYachid. The Yachid has a Reshut to come in, so is to your own Reshut HaYachid. When you are the Kohen Gadol, Ata Kohen Gadol Shel Atzmecha, you also have to make sure that everything is perfect. You have to make sure that it's not open wide to all kind of crazy ideas and so on and so forth. You have to watch your gag, that's your head. Watch what you're thinking. Watch your thoughts. Have in mind always, Shiviti Hashem lenigdi tamid. I would contemplate on Hashem in front of me all the time. Ki meimini bal emot. If I'm going to contemplate on Hashem all the time, Hashem is going to be on my right side and I'm not going to fall. He's going to support me. Because if you realize that God is there watching you, you don't care if mommy is sleeping, you don't care if daddy is sleeping, you don't care if your wife is sleeping. God is there. And that's how you're not going to stumble, remembering that God is there. When a person does an Averah, he makes a statement. God does not exist for me in that moment. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's very simple. In other words, and now you might appreciate the gvulot, the boundaries in which Rabbanan put us. the Rabbanan, all those rabbinical things, that not like those idiots who think that Rabbanan is an invention, all the rabbinical laws, it's an invention to control the people. It's actually to prevent you from stumbling, from falling. Rabbanan are the ma'akeh legagecha. The ma'akeh is the fence around Gadcha, right, Gadcha, so you won't forget HaKadosh Baruch Hu and do an Avarah. You have to remember that. And we can grow, and we could develop, and we could acquire and give meaning and importance and tremendous value even to the darkest aspects of our lives. Rav Kook says, "Hatshuva tzricha liyot yesodit." When a person makes tshuva, it has to be thorough. He has to be ma'amika. He has to be deep. You have to go deep. V'hi eina kli lehachsharat to'eva. Making teshuvah, repentance, it is not an instrument to purify your abomination. Oh, you don't feel good? It's okay. Ta'aseh teshuvah. Akol yeh beseder. But a person who is immersed into being feel good, and it's okay. You're entitled to your feeling. That's not your fault. You're allowed to. I mean, afterwards, you're a person, right? A person like that is not organizing his life in a holy manner, is going to reach a level of sinking down into the deep abyss of sin, because he's not going to be able to come out of it. And that is the way of death, derech hamavet. That's the way of death. That is the way of avodah zarah. Avodah zarah that tells you, don't worry about it. It's okay. You're entitled. You could do it. Lama lo? Right? Avodah zarah, it says, Haviu laboker zivchechem l'shloshat yamim ma'asrotechem v'kater michametz todah. A person cannot bring korban that is chametz. We can't do that. We can't do that. That's why we have to look at our ways. And we have to understand that making tshuva is not just saying, I am sorry, God, for I sin. Oh, forgive me, Father, for I sin. It ain't so. To become a Baal tshuva, or to become, for that matter, a convert, means a complete and total change of the way you live your life. That's why a convert, in a way, leaves his life behind. Not that your aunts and cousins and uncles are bad people. He's just a different person now. You change your ways. If you were an alcoholic, and you are a recovering alcoholic, and your aunt and uncles are only drinking all day long, would you go visit them? No. You are expected to change your ways. You are expected to change the way you think. It's like a diet. A person cannot go on a diet until he realizes that what? It's not just, I'm going to go on a crash diet, I'll lose a couple of pounds and then I'll be good. In order to have a true diet, you need to change the way you eat and the way you live your life, and even more so the way you think. And you need to want to do it, not because the doctor told you, because you want to do it. And therefore, mitvadeh ve'ozev et ha'emet, a person who confesses and you know, it says, okay, I'm sorry, I sinned, but leaves the truth and leaves the mishpat, the order, and goes after his heart. It's okay, zeminut. That's a mean. That's an apikoros. That's an evil person. A person like that tells you, listen, it's okay. It's okay. You know, there's no such thing as an abomination. They were born like this. They don't have to change. They were this. They don't have to do, you know, and so on and so forth. A society that allows, you know, finds excuses. Nurture, nature. How about free choice? How about free choice? A society that accepts that is a society that at the end, from abomination acts, of immoral acts, of going to harlots, or using women,
of this kind of a behavior would end up to be a society that is involved with murder, crime, just like we are today. So if you want to know how we got here today, is because we say you do not have to assume responsibility for your actions. You don't have to change. You're okay the way you are. It's not your fault. In a way, society like this says you have no free choice. And that's how we became a murderous society. A society like this says, we are so advanced. We are so ahead of our time. We are so liberal, wonderful. Look at us. We are a better society. It is a society that does the same thing like a pig. When a pig puts his hoofs out, you see it split hooves. It says, Ani kosher, Ana kosher. But you're not kosher, because after all, I don't care how split your hooves are, you're still a pig. And a pig is not kosher. And this is what we need to do during this month. This Parashat Ki Tetzei, deals about all these things. And I will tell you something, look at the way you treat your women, the women in your lives. Look at the way you look at women. Look at the way you think about women. And start changing it like that. Women are not an outlet for the darkest forces inside of you. On the contrary, women are a concept that would allow to make you and the whole society better. And we don't treat them, and I do believe that we continue with this behavior mainly because, or should I say, it starts with the way we treat women. We don't give women the respect in which they deserve. We don't treat them like that. That's why a person should be very careful how does he treat his wife, or how does he even pick a wife. That's why look at her qualities. Look at her midot. Is she tzanua? Is she humble? Is she ba'alat chesed? Does she want to cover her hair? Does she want to wear pants? You know, I don't care how beautiful she is. I don't want my wife to wear pants. No, I want my wife not to cover her hair. I would not marry a woman like that. Look at the midot. Because those midot, when you pick those midot, it would help you set yourself on a path of the right way, or the right path. And you'll be able to raise your children appropriately, and they're going to be true values in your house, and so on and so on and so forth. And if your house will be a house that is built on chesed and kindness and Torah and Ahavat Israel, guess what? Your house and his house and his house and my house and everybody's house, and all of a sudden we have a very healthy and functioning society. And that is the Tikkun Olam, Rabotai. Think about all these things. Take even the darkest point in you and make it holy. Make it good. Take responsibility for your actions. Modeh ve'ozev yerucham. You need to do aziva. You don't need to make the pig kosher. You need to simply not to eat it. Shabbat shalom.